The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Blowing out of the backfield, exploding down the sideline.
This is Hangin' with the Boys, presented by Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings. Now, your hosts, Nate Newton, Kurt Daniels, Jesse Holley, and Shannon Gross.
Surprise! It's not Nate Newton, Jesse Holley, Shannon Gross, and Kurt Daniels, but we will tell you who is here on our White Elephant Week on Hanging with the Boys.
Way to call. Yeah.
You're looking live at Tostitos Championship Plaza outside Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas, where it is very lively out there. There's a lot of action on the plaza. It is 83 degrees. That may have something to do with it. And the high today is 91, and I just found out the low tonight is 49 degrees.
Turn me up.
Let's go.
I'm about that. Oh, yeah. And you were listening to, what is it? Wait, hold on. You are Shannon.
I am.
This is Jazz. This is Nick Harris. In the back is Christopher Beamer.
There we go.
I am Josh Rodriguez. You're listening to Hanging with the Boys, the sports talk equivalent of Braille.
Hanging with the boys and gals.
Feel us metaphorically when we speak.
There we go. Chris, ask Jess how he did.
I missed it.
Ask Jesse how he did.
How we do, Jesse?
Need some practice.
Need some practice?
Needs a practice.
Okay.
I tried to do a toned down version because I think the only way you can go is down from Jesse. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to tone it down. I can't go to that level,
got
that
a
same
low bar,
level.
my friend.
If you're going into the bye week needing some practice, you're not the only one around here.
Hey,
we'll get to that in just a second.
Shots fired.
We are brought to you each and every day by Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings.
I am so behind on all of this.
Yes,
we're not
we
the
got
only
stuff.
Ones. We
don't-
need a ton
some
of practice.
We don't listen to y'all shows either, so we don't expect you to listen to ours. But how does it feel to sit in the seats of the #1 rated podcast on the Dallas Cowboys Network?
That's funny because you guys have more podcasts than everybody else. So it's funny how that number works out, you
How do
know?
we have more podcasts than everybody
You
else?
literally, there are more Hanging with the Boys podcasts.
How? We're all on.
There are like 20. That last
There's only
report.
2 more, so let's not
Let's
like
calm
last
down.
not
report.
bite on this.
What was your
so
name
much.
again?
Oh, Josh.
Okay.
You're Sharon, right?
Sometimes.
Okay,
Depends
okay.
the mood. So
We talking about quantity or
I didn't know
quality?
we were coming on the air and starting to throw rocks at people. Like,
I'm just here to talk ball.
yeah. Welcome to the show, by the way.
I didn't know we were coming on here to throw. And he's like, so the #1 show. How does it feel to be?
That's a fact. That's a fact. Apparently, we have more shows than everybody, so that's an excuse you can use until next month.
the number of episodes. Yeah,
All right, let's go.
that's fair enough.
All right.
The second best fight between radio hosts today.
Hey, there you go.
I'm just full of
It's
them.
all love. It's all
There
love.
you
I'm
go.
full of them.
So let's go around. By the way, let's everybody should know me and Josh because we interact on the show all the time on this show. So
Yes.
for the people that don't know,
A
Nick,
rivalry of sorts.
introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Let me introduce the lady on the show first. Jazz, introduce yourself.
I'm Jazz Monet from Girls Talk, Boys Talk.
Okay.
Anything else I should share?
Because
this is my first season doing this with the Dallas Cowboys. I've had my own podcast on YouTube for a while.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I would say yes normally, but the last year we had these, I tried to get to know everyone on the air, and it was the 2 worst shows I've ever done in my life because I was like, I don't really know these people. Let's get to know each other. Where are you from? What do you do? And it was terrible radio. So that works perfectly. So thank you.
Okay.
All right.
All right, then I'm going to use that. Keep it short and sweet. I'm Nick Harris. I'm on the break. Formerly of DallasCowboys.com, now with a 4-star Telegram.
And Josh, for folks that don't know who you are.
I just kind of work here, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I push a couple buttons in the back, and I
That's all you
get
gotta do.
people upset on
Tommy
the
asked
internet.
me yesterday, he was like, who's Josh? And I'm like, he's just always doing something very important. Like he's always in the room with Beam, always doing something very important. Go introduce yourself sometime.
This is fair. This is fair. A VIP of sorts. No, not at all.
And you're on which show are you?
I skate by. Talking Cowboys, the
you go.
flagship
Show. There you
podcast
go.
on the DallasCowboys.com radio network, baby.
Apparently with 2 less shows than us every month. So
Just a couple less shows, and it was a weird month because of you kind of training camp. And anyways, no excuses, no excuses. You guys are number 1. You take
let us
that.
live in it, man. We've been working for that for
You take
7
it.
years. Let us have our moment.
You take it. #1 podcast. I'm happy to be.
Thank
I'm
you.
honored. I'm
Thank
honored to be on Hanging with the
Appreciate that.
Boys.
And keep pushing those buttons because the button pushers in the back wind up doing big things with this organization. So everyone gets out of the basement.
Jesus.
Except Chris. Chris is tired. He's chained
Appreciate
to the
it.
desk in the back. So
Yeah.
All right, let's talk some football.
This beef, man.
Jazz, let's start with you. We're going into the bye week.
What's up?
What were your expectations going into the season? Where are they now, and where do you think this team's going to end up at the end of the year?
Oh Lord, where it started, where it's going with the
What's
Cowboys.
happening? Yeah.
My expectations coming into the season, I wanted to see what Zim was going to do with the defense, with the reputation that he had for being like a no nonsense guy. I wanted to see how that would pair with what, honestly, like I'm one of those people I like to go back to. This is what this person said, and I was thinking about Micah Parsons' podcast. Now he's all like, I want to be a leader and hold people accountable, and I'm like, how's that going to work with this guy? So I was expecting to see a much like a very disciplined defense that was like really on top of their game. From the offense, I was expecting a lot more comfort with Mike McCarthy's systems. Their second year in it, a lot of the same players. And so far, it's honestly been unpredictable. I can't think of a single thing that's actually been consistent this entire season. So it's really hard to evaluate them on every week as a whole. We could go back to this last game that we just saw and talk about how disappointed we are in just about everything except for Brandon Aubrey. But I definitely expected at least some consistency in some sense, especially as much as Mike McCarthy emphasizes things like complementary football and everything that he said about, wanting to work on the run game and just going into the season knowing, okay, our biggest problems for the Cowboys are their ability to stop the run and to run the ball. And I'm just like, okay, that's like football basics. So they're going to get better at that, right? And even with the inconsistencies, it feels like in that area, not so much. So I'm hoping during the bye week that something happens. I know Dak said that he was going to look at things that they could do to work on. I'm like, I don't know what that means because you're the quarterback, not a coach last time I checked. But like, I'm trying to be optimistic and just wait and see what happens when they come back. Maybe that game was like the reality check a lot of people needed, and they'll come back as a totally different team.
That was great. You could have really just summed up the whole thing by saying the part where you said everything but our kicker. Whenever your kicker is the strongest thing that you can talk about, then the team is in complete disarray.
Yeah, so. He's like got a record now for like most consecutive 50-yard field goals, and I'm like, that's not really the flex that we really want this time of the season.
When you're talking about your kicker as the high point of the season so far, that's not a great thing. So
better than the punter, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. It could be a little worse. Or your deep snapper. Deep snapper.
And if he wasn't the kicker that he is, it would be the punter with some record.
It probably would be. So what about you, Nick?
It's time to give Trent Sieg his flowers, honestly.
Honestly, he needs to get that Pro Bowl nod. For me, whenever I was looking at the 2023 season as a holistic approach, looking at and poor Beam, he's heard the same point from me 100 million times on the break. This team was not tough in 2023. It lacked toughness. It lacked physicality. You saw losses against the Bills, the Cardinals, the 49ers, the Packers. There was a common theme with all of them in the sense that they were getting blown off the line. They were getting thrown off rhythm and timing in the secondary, and it was just they were overmatched physically. You come into this season, and honestly, I expected that to increase a little bit. Like to your point, getting Mike Zimmer into the building, bringing in a guy like Eric Kendricks, focusing in on what DeMarcus Lawrence had kind of said over the offseason about wanting to be a more physical team. And then we see that out on the field in these first three games against the Browns, Saints, and then the Ravens. And the physicality and the toughness somehow decreased. And then you look on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, you lose Tyron Smith, but and you have two rookies starting up front, but there is no reason why in some of these games that they are being outmatched as physically as they are. And then it all just kind of came crashing down against the Lions. And you saw all of those problems really just kind of supersede. And it was a microcosm of what this team has been over the course of the last 2 years. Not a physical football team, not tough, and in this game specifically, not disciplined. And we've seen that come about over and over and over again. I came into the season understanding that the ceiling for this team was a lot lower than it was in 2023. But I still expected that ceiling to be they will be among the NFC contenders. They'll have a shot right at the end to make the NFC championship. Whereas last year, I thought their ceiling was to be able to get to a Super Bowl. I think everyone believed that going into the year. And even going into the playoffs last year, I think some people would tell you, hey, there was a shot for this team to make the Super Bowl if things fell right. And they did fall right. They wouldn't have had to go to San Francisco until the NFC championship game. But that's neither here nor there. Looking at 2024, I thought the expectation would be, hey, the ceiling for this team is to make an NFC championship. I'm looking at it now, and I think the ceiling for this team is just to make the playoffs. I think right now I'm firmly looking at an 8-9 or 9-8 squad by the end of the year.
And any win in their future in the playoffs if they get there?
Oh, I don't.
Or
Yeah,
one and done.
I don't
again?
believe so. I don't believe so.
What about you, Josh?
I think that's a fair assessment. At least my expectations coming into the season, I definitely thought that we were going to struggle in the first half. I thought it was going to be a struggle getting used to Mike Zimmer's defense, especially the fact that you don't have the personnel for a Mike Zimmer defense. It wasn't a plug-and-play situation when it came to Mike Zimmer. These guys were going to have to learn it on the fly. The fact that you had all of these injuries on top of that, not to give any excuses at all, because all of the same issues that we had from last year are now exacerbated. You can't beat good teams. You're not winning. You're no longer winning at home. On the road is sus. You got away with a win in Pittsburgh. And now, at least looking at it, like Harris just said, you're not a physical football team. You're not going to grit your way to a win. Pittsburgh notwithstanding, I don't understand how we got out of that with a win. I think they just stopped running the ball for whatever inexplicable reason, and we happened to get that win. But I expected a struggle up until the bye week. After the bye week, I was like, okay, this is a get-right time. And granted, we're still 3-3 right now, but I did not expect any of the losses in the first half of the season to be as dramatic as they've been. We've just looked horrendous at home. It's really disheartening. However, you have people coming back. You have Micah coming back. You have DeMarcus Lawrence coming back. They're not season-ending injuries by any means. And you have Deron Bland on the horizon too, who almost went in this game. And I think they sort of were like, all right, we need to take a step back. This game is not looking good on all fronts. You have one of the scariest running tandems in the league coming to AT&T Stadium, and it's not going to be fun. We don't know how to stop the run at all. So to me, it's sort of par for the course. However, did not expect the losses to be as bad as they were. I expected a losing record by this time in the season. Now, looking at the rest of the season, you look at the Falcons, you look at the Texans, the Commanders even, it's like, okay, this is not as downhill as I thought it was going to be. And you have some really tough teams ahead of you that are literally tough, whereas we are kind of looking for that. And I don't think there is an identity on this team. We've talked about this on Talking Cowboys, of course, but what can you really point to?
Unfortunately, I think there is, and it's that they're soft. Unfortunately,
don't use that word lightly, my friend.
I know, and that was told. Unfortunately, I think that is the identity that's being created around this team. But yeah.
Yeah, I think one of your points is you could see this team before the season started have a losing record. You're at 500, but you would almost, you feel bad about that 500. It's not a positive 500. Yeah. It's we're very lucky to be 500, right?
If the Steelers had a better game plan, they should have won that game. We looked terrible. We genuinely looked so bad. If they would have just kept running the ball, I think that's a different story. But, you are what your record says you are, right?
Can I ask a question?
No, you can't ask questions on the show. Of course.
I kind of want to dive into this word soft. Like, when you say that, what do you mean by soft? Because I feel like that could refer to a few different things. Like physically, obviously, people have been talking about the missed tackles. But then I was also thinking about the fact that we all mentioned things that were happening last year that either didn't improve or got worse this year. And so it kind of makes me wonder, when people are using that word, is it also like a mental thing, where when they talk about how mentally tough they are and resilient and all this work that they do over the off season for like emotional improvement and ways to mentally approach the game, is it maybe not working or not having the desired effect? What are you thinking of when you use that word?
Yeah, I just want to see it translated to the field. And in these games where the Cowboys have gotten in these early deficits, they have not been able to claw back. In the entire time that Mike McCarthy has been head coach, they have only overcome 2 double-digit deficits. Only twice, and only once since the 2020 season. There was one game in the 2020 season where they were able to make up some ground, but it was in a game where both backup units were playing. So really, in essence, one time. That speaks to mental toughness, being able to overcome early deficits. And so when you look at the Detroit game and you're down 10-3, 17-3 right there in the early beginnings, hey, I can go ahead and start writing this story, because we haven't seen this team be able to overcome those challenges. And even in Green Bay, against Green Bay last year, once it got to 21-3, we were all looking around like, dang, this is over. So I just want to see it translated. Do I think that some of these guys in the locker room are mentally and or physically tough? Absolutely. But I don't think as a unit that they are. And I think it needs to be translated into games. We haven't seen that happen yet.
Breaking news real quick before we get back into that. Yes, former Cowboy Amari Cooper has been traded to the Buffalo Bills. reports say. Thanks, Chris, for the breaking news. And I think, Nick, that goes back several years. What it means to me is I think of this one. I don't remember the game. It was, I think, 3 years ago, and maybe 4 years ago now. Beam, you may remember. And the backup quarterback was in. I believe it was in. I want to say we were playing Cleveland or someone like that, and he just got murdered. He slid, and a guy came in high, hit him with a forearm, and not one offensive lineman went over there to even help him up. Like, the man could have.
It was Andy Dalton.
Yeah, it was Andy Dalton. And to me, that's been.
It was the Washington game, by the way.
Was it Washington?
Yeah, it was Washington.
Like, your offensive lineman should have been over there getting 15-yard penalties left and right, defending the even though he's the backup, right? Like, taking up for your teammate, doing. And I see some signs of dog on this team. Jordan Lewis, I think
Tyler Smith. Yeah.
I think DeMarian's got some of that in him, right?
Sure.
But I also see some guys that are just like, they almost seem like they're over it. It's almost like, this is what we do. We show up, and then there's no ramifications for not doing your job and missing tackles and not sticking your nose in there and things like that. And I think that's contagious. And I think when there's no, when you're supposedly leaders, and I'm not pointing specific names, but I think you get that feel as the team as a whole. It's
microcosm of all of that.
Yeah, like you look at the lines and you're going to get hit. Even the offensive line, you're going to get manhandled. Even when we had really good offensive lines, you didn't feel like there was Lyle. He was a mauler, right? You just don't. That's what I say whenever you see. And you're right, it can mean a lot of different things. But I think of just, to me, it's a mentality of like, you're not going to push us around, and when you do, we're going to push back, and there's not a lot of that to me.
Yeah, I don't like to use the word soft, but like yesterday I was driving around, and the word that I did think of, I think would actually align with what y'all are saying, which was I went back to when, after the Green Bay game, they were called front runners, because I just kept thinking about the fact that it's like, okay, they got down early, right? But they still had opportunities, at least in terms of time, to come back and do something had they kind of gotten it together and been like, all right, we didn't start well, but like, let's right the ship now. But it felt like they just gave up so early.
Right,
it felt
the what?
like right the ship.
Oh, the ship.
Ship.
Okay.
Like with a sail on the ocean.
That's it.
Fix this.
Yes, fix it. But it felt like they gave up so early, and like they just didn't have any answers. They had nothing to resort to on either side of the ball to say like, okay, here's what we're gonna do now. And I watch a lot of sports, right? And there are a few tennis players that I like, Serena Williams, Coco Gauff. They both have this thing about them where when they start to lose, sometimes they'll get like aggressive, and you can tell that, like, I don't know if they're mad at their opponent or they're mad at themselves or just mad at the score, but it's like they will turn it up. Like there's a fire lit under them when they see that they're not playing to the level they want to play to. A lot of my favorite athletes are like that. And I guess to your point, that's just one of the things that I don't see. And what you were saying about leaders, like Deion Sanders, he differentiates leaders from dogs, right? He talks about leaders being an example of what you're supposed to do and dogs being an example of what attitude you're supposed to have. And if you ever like look at the Colorado jerseys, some of them have an L and some of them have a D. That's how he identifies who's who. So you can kind of tell. And so I do think that there are some dogs on the team, but none of them are like also leaders. And so at the end of the day, people follow leaders. So it's up to them to kind of set the tone if that's what they want the team to be like.
I think so too, and soft is a very operative word. I mean, I don't want to be like, yeah, SAWFT. These guys are soft. I think when it comes to the Cowboys and how they get down early and how that translates for the rest of the game, it kind of feels like PTSD in a way. It feels like all of, even in the press box, all of us are thinking back to that wild card game that really just broke the team. It really just demolished us inside and out. Granted, we weren't playing well in December leading up to that game either, but to me, when, like you just said, you're down 10-3 against the Lions, and then everybody's thinking, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Like, it's happening again. And it is a self-fulfilling prophecy in that moment. And the guys aren't stepping above what they're expected to do because they're accepting it. They're accepting, oh no, this is just going to, I know, I've seen this movie before, and this is what's going to happen.
And it's got to be a terrible feeling for those guys when they turn the tape on and they look what they're about to play that week, and they know they just don't have the personnel.
That too.
They don't have, even if they play their best game, they've got to make a lot of mistakes on their side for us to win. So it's got to be defeating, knowing, especially when you're down as me. I mean, I don't know. I know people have their opinions, but I don't know if anybody could have coached that team to not lose by 20 with all the injuries they had in that game. I mean, if you looked at the injury report, especially on defense, it's like, okay, how do you deal with this? But it's got to be, and I bet that compounds too as an athlete on a team in a team sport. You know, the biggest of all team sports where everybody has to do their job, to know you're outmatched and whatever you're trying and whatever's happening, you just can't get it done. It's got to just, and you see it on their faces in the third and fourth quarter. It's just like,
yeah, but here's what I'll say to that. Yeah, on paper, it didn't look like they were supposed to win, but teams that aren't supposed to win on paper, they are able to pull off miracles all the time. It happens all the time. That's where the phrase "any given Sunday" comes from. And yes,
but for that to happen, you have to play a team that's either unprepared or underestimating
you have to have a really good day, which is what they needed. So, like,
they did not have a good day.
Not at all. Yes, they had some injuries, and anybody could point to those injuries. But it's like you could also even point to some of the things that were trending in the right direction leading up to the game, and they didn't even do that well. I listened to a lot of people's predictions for that game, and even the people who predicted that the Cowboys would lose didn't think that it was gonna go like that. And that's what I think the bigger problem is. I don't think it's just that they lost. I think it's the way they lost. That this is literally a historical loss for the Dallas Cowboys, and even with the people who are on the field, there's no excuse for that. Like, there's no excuse for Dak Prescott to be throwing off his back foot the entire game. I can hardly think of a throw that he was even able to step into. What was going on in the run game? Like, even Mike McCarthy didn't have answers. He's like, yeah, Rico should touch the ball more. Okay, well, what?
If only he had a play caller.
Yeah, if only the play caller agreed with you. Oh, wait, or like even on the defensive side, like so many missed tackles, like just so many of the disciplinary issues that they have been talking about all season in terms of people doing their job, not playing hero ball. Like, all of a sudden, those things are coming back. So it was just like, even for what they put on the field, they didn't even rise to the occasion considering that group and what we've seen from them in that regard. Even if you just look at the fact that going into that game, the way that CeeDee Lamb's numbers were looking against man coverage, I was like, okay, if he can at least do that and they can improve on that just a little bit, like, they should be all right. No. Every single thing was worse. And I think that's the part that people are looking at when they're like, okay, that's what's making people say, why isn't Mike McCarthy's job in question? I'm not saying that it should be. I'm just saying that that's why a lot of people are saying those things.
That's why the discourse is there.
Exactly.
And I thought discourse was an app used on the internet to talk about video games. All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk some more. What is this team's identity? Josh brought it up earlier. We'll get everybody's opinion on that and more when we come back on Hangin' with the Boys and Girls.
How's Wingstop sound? Crispy, juicy classic wings, sauced and tossed in those 11 soul-satisfying flavors. Paired with hand-cut seasoned fries, house-made honey mustard, blue cheese, or signature Wingstop ranch. I think you've heard enough. Get your flavor delivered at wingstop.com.
This is Nate Newton from Hangin' with the Boys, and Wingstop is here to bring the flavor to game day as the official wings of the Dallas Cowboys. Order now by downloading the Wingstop app or ordering online at wingstop.com.
Hey, Cowboys fans, a 2024 football season is here, and SeatGeek is here to help you experience all the action. SeatGeek makes it easy to find tickets so you can be a part of all the touchdown celebrations this season. Whether you're buying or selling tickets to Cowboys football games or to any other live event, SeatGeek is the place to do it. SeatGeek is the official primary ticketing partner of the Dallas Cowboys. The most disruptive idea in ticketing? A ticket that works. Expect the expected. SeatGeek.
Hey, Cowboy fans, I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. But lately, I've been learning a new game, crypto. Sound confusing? Don't worry, even us pros were rookies in crypto once. That's why I trust blockchain.com. They make crypto easy. No confusing jargon, just the tools to help you win.
Prescott keeps it, slides with a first down.
Invest like your icons, where everyone is a rookie in crypto with blockchain.com.
Perfect throw, my goodness. Wow, did he ever thread the needle.
Visit blockchain.com/Cowboys to get started.
We got big personalities. We got big hair, big belt buckles. We got fans all across this big state and enemies in every other one. We even got a big star on the 50-yard line. Smirnoff knows football is a we thing, an experience that is best enjoyed together. With good drinks and good folks home or away, we rally together. We cry together, and we always rally cry together because, most of all, we got big love for them boys. Smirnoff, we do game days. Please drink responsibly.
Hanging with the Boys.
Welcome back to Hanging with the Boys, brought to you each and every day. This second segment, blockchain.com. Thank you, blockchain.com. Josh.
Blockchain.com. What's up?
Get ready for the ultimate game day experience, sir.
Oh my gosh, I'm ready.
Thanks to 7-Eleven, you, everyone listening could win a VIP experience to the Cowboys versus Bengals showdown on December the 9th. Just text Cowboys VIP to 711-711 for your chance to win premium club tickets.
711-711?
Yep, that'd be 711-711.
Okay, gotcha.
Premium club tickets, sideline passes, travel, and more. Don't miss out. Enter now. No purchase necessary. Ends on 11/20. Must be 18 or older. In the U.S.D.C. area, void where prohibited. Message and data rates may apply. Visit bit.ly/go711-711. That's go711-711 for you, Josh. Full details.
I just texted them you up.
And non-text entry.
That's a game they could win.
Oh, big golf, son.
Yeah, it is a game.
That's a game they could win, too.
It's a good game. That'd be fun to see Joey Burrow and
Joey
Chase come in here. All right. Let's see. 6 weeks in.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't have any identity at all for this team. This was a point that you wanted to bring up. So what is your take on this team? Do they have an identity?
No, and we just talked about it, and I'm still not of the idea that the Cowboys are soft quite yet. I think the identity was supposed to be that the offense was going to carry you. Dak was going to be, for God. He was going to go out there and do his thing, right? He had the same offense that he did last year, the same play caller, and they were going to start cooking. You had the first 5 weeks of last year that looked exactly like the rest of this season, right? And then they got it back together after the Chargers game. They picked it up. They were able to scheme players open, and CD was just going bonkers. But now you have the season where this Lions game, correct me if I'm wrong, this was the best second half CD has had all year long. By matter of the fact that he only caught more than 2 balls in this second half. CD has not been playing very well, and we're 6 weeks in. You can't blame it on training camp. You really cannot. It's 6 weeks into your regular season. He should be in sync with Dak Prescott. And you see it in their press conferences. They're all talking about, look in the mirror. We got to look in the mirror. We got to see take accountability for how we're playing and the details, right? Well, they're all in sync on that front, but you're not seeing it on the field. You're seeing CD and Jake Ferguson run into each other on routes. To me, it's just not necessarily soft. It's just they're not in sync. They're not playing with the same idea in mind getting on the field. At least that's what it looks like, right? You only can judge the results, not the intent. So as far as I'm sitting here, I just blank. John Doe for me as far as the identity of this team. It's a cadaver with a toe tag on it.
Oh, wow.
Just kind of add on CeeDee Lamb in the first 5 games in second halves, 5 receptions for 24 yards. In this game, it was 3 receptions for 43 yards. So
they doubled it almost.
Almost doubled it. 3 receptions, though, and that's his best second half.
So did you just, Josh, refer to the Cowboys as being in a body bag for the second half of the season? You said they're a cadaver with a toe tag. So are you writing them off? Are they done? They dead?
I said this was after the Ravens game. I said if you lost any of the next 3 games, I would be hitting the panic button. Any of the next 3. Pittsburgh, New York, and the Lions. I am firmly
in panic mode.
Why the Lions?
Why the Lions?
Like, let's just say it was a close loss. You still would have felt that way?
I still would have felt that way.
Why?
Because after the Ravens loss, you can't look like that again. If it was a close loss, maybe I would have been a little hesitant on it, but it was what I expected out of the Lions loss.
I'd have felt better if it had been a close game because I think the Lions have a legit shot of going to the Super Bowl in the NFC after seeing what they're doing. And they're especially the weapons they have on offense and but barring injuries.
My thing was to me, the real test on the schedule, the demon in the closet that's been haunting you for the last 5 years is the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
You have them on your schedule right after the bye week.
Find up real quick.
To me, it was like you need to stack wins and then prove that you can beat the 49ers. For you to kind of get by against... you defeated the Giants. Fine. But to kind of get by against the Steelers and then to drop yet another disappointing home loss to the Lions, to me, that just says, yeah, this team's just not it. It's not ready.
What about you, Nick?
Identity wise,
yeah.
If we're looking for something positive, I don't think it's been figured out at all. Like I said, if there was an identity that I had to place on this team right now, is that they're not physically tough, and that's proven in games that they've lost, and even in some games that they've won. You could look back to a couple last year, but even this year specifically, looking at the Pittsburgh game, second half offense, couldn't find anything. I mean, if that's an incomplete pass on that fourth down to Jalen Tolbert, we're having a different conversation about that Pittsburgh game too. That was a game that they were outmatched physically, but they were still able to find a win. I think that's probably where the mental toughness probably came into the equation, especially after losing Marshawn Nealon on the fourth play of the game, and you're already down 2 edge rushers, and those guys on the ends did step up. That's probably where the mental toughness did come into play. But I think from a physical standpoint, you have guys that are not willing to tackle out in open space. You have pass protection issues, and it's trickling down to all 5 guys, including Zach Martin, who had the worst game of his career against the Lions. It's not a tough football team. That's my identity right now.
What about you, Jazz?
I also don't have a very positive word for their identity. Earlier this season, the question was asked, who's to blame for the Cowboys' rough start? And at that time, I said it was the players, because the players were saying it was the players. Every bit of sound you heard from them was them pointing to each other. Micah saying guys need to step up. J. Lou saying that, guys need to do their job. Cavante saying people need to be on their P's and Q's. Everybody was pointing to the other guys in the locker room and themselves, right? So if I follow that same trend of going by what they're saying, then their identity is that they're unprepared, because that's what they're saying now. Dak is saying that they can't just show up on Sunday and they need to prepare better. And Mike McCarthy, even when he was asked about it, he's like, oh, well, it doesn't mean they're not practicing hard. They're just not practicing well. And I'm like, okay, that's still not great.
Yeah.
So they're unprepared on the field, and off the field, it seems like they all know the right things to say and they fall in line behind Mike McCarthy. Like when Dak said, well, I don't care to share the message that he gave us. I'm like, well, we all know what it is, because like 3 of you have said it now. It was look in the mirror. We know. And so like you hear that mirrored, but how often do you hear people really say what exactly does that mean? And it sounds good in theory when we think, okay, they're gonna go self-scout. They're going to like really examine what they need to do better as an athlete in order to show up as their best selves. But we don't really know, so they're unprepared, and they say the right things after the fact.
They're saying the right things, and I loved what Tommy Arish asked Dak Prescott after the game, where he said, it's like, okay, well, looking in the mirror, what do you want to see in your reflection when you go up to San Francisco? And Dak was a little puzzled by the question at first, and he was like, that's a really good question, and I think that kind of sums it up. It's like, yeah, you have the right answer, but what are the results, man? Mm-hmm. What are the results?
You have to take action with that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because this past post-game press conference was probably the first time I remember ever seeing Dak Prescott looking like he was at a loss for what to say. Because it was that one, and also when he said that they needed to prepare better, and somebody was like, well, that was the problem 2 weeks ago. And he was like, 2 weeks ago? And I'm like, I'm watching this. I'm like, yes, Dak, you said that 2 weeks ago, and apparently it's still a problem. So, yeah, there were a couple of moments during that press conference that he just seemed like he just wasn't prepared for the question.
If there's preparation problems, if there's practice problems, then there are foundational issues around how they operate on a daily basis. And that gives me a little bit more pessimism about how an entire season can go when you're already 6 games in and you're talking about key foundational things that you start your campaign with, that you started in with OTAs, when you started with minicamp. It's like, okay, hey, young guys, hey, new guys that are in the building, this is how we prepare every single day. This is how we attack the day. That's what OTAs and minicamp is there for, so that when you do get to training camp, when you do get in the season, there's an expectation that you don't have to go over. Now we're in the bye week. They're going to be coming out of the bye week just now trying to put these things in. And even if they do get them in place within 3-4 weeks, that's not an overnight process. And then by then, you're looking at the back half of a schedule. You have a lot more games already under your belt by that point than you have left. So it's going to take a really intentional coaching job and a really intentional approach by the players to be able to correct the issues that they have from a foundational standpoint going into the rest of the season if they want to reach that ceiling that they had coming into the year.
Let's talk about what they can do between now and Yes.
Well, I wanted to hear what you had to say about
Well,
the
we got to go to break because y'all
my
are
bad.
talking too much. Y'all aren't
Sorry,
letting me
man.
talk, man.
My
And it's
bad.
fine because I'm getting to know you through this.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back.
Better radio.
We'll get to me. More of me on the third
Okay,
segment
good.
of Hanging with the Boys. We'll be right back.
How's Wingstop sound? Crispy, juicy classic wings, sauced and tossed in those 11 soul-satisfying flavors. Paired with hand-cut seasoned fries, house-made honey mustard, blue cheese, or signature Wingstop ranch. I think you've heard enough. Get your flavor delivered at wingstop.com.
This is Nate Newton from Hanging with the Boys, and Wingstop is here to bring the flavor to game day as the official wings of the Dallas Cowboys. Order now by downloading the Wingstop app or ordering online at wingstop.com.
Hey, Cowboy fans, I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. But lately, I've been learning a new game, crypto. Sound confusing? Don't worry, even us pros were rookies in crypto once. That's why I trust blockchain.com. They make crypto easy. No confusing jargon, just the tools to help you win.
Prescott keeps it, slides with a first down.
Invest like your icons, where everyone is a rookie in crypto with blockchain.com.
Perfect throw, my goodness. Wow, did he ever thread the needle?
Visit blockchain.com/cowboys to get started.
Fall is here, and that means football is back, bringing all the delicious game day foods with it. As you prep for all the big games, tailgates, and watch parties, let Yo Quiero be your one-stop destination for all things home gating. Yo Quiero's fresh, flavorful, ready-to-serve guacamole, made with real Hass avocados, will score taste bud touchdowns as you cheer on the Cowboys. Yo Quiero's wide range of mouthwatering and versatile products can be found in your local grocery store's produce or deli section. Grab some today.
Hey, Cowboys fans, the 2024 football season is here, and SeatGeek is here to help you experience all the action. SeatGeek makes it easy to find tickets so you can be a part of all the touchdown celebrations this season. Whether you're buying or selling tickets to Cowboys football games or to any other live event, SeatGeek is the place to do it. SeatGeek is the official primary ticketing partner of the Dallas Cowboys. The most disruptive idea in ticketing? A ticket that works. Expect the expected. SeatGeek.
Welcome back to the final segment of Hanging with the Boys, brought to you each and every day by Jigsaw, the proud dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
I tried to get Jigsaw. My wife was not about it.
No?
She didn't let me do it.
Probably not a good choice.
I was like, it's a
apps to
sponsor for the Cowboys. I
download
have
for
to do it.
you.
It's part of the job.
We get free promo.
So, question for you: if you downloaded it, were you going to download it as a single person, or were you going to download it as a couple's looking for something more? Since you brought it up,
I knew where that was going from the start.
Hey, man.
you did bring it up.
I'm just saying, I don't know where my keys are. You know what I mean?
Do you shop with a pineapple turned upside down in your shopping
Yeah,
cart?
I always turn them up in the shopping cart.
I started actually buying a pineapple the other day at the store, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I've seen the TikTok videos.
Yeah,
I'm not doing
don't
that.
do it.
I don't know what any of that means, but I'm not going to ask.
Don't
I'm
put
not
it
going
upside
to
down.
I'm not going to ask.
Can't do it on
Falls
her.
over. Yeah.
Just when you get a chance, Google upside down pineapple.
yeah.
I have Google literally open right in front of me. I'm going to wait.
He's like, I'm on the Cowboys Wi-Fi.
Yeah, when I say when you get a chance, I mean like not right now.
Not this minute.
Today is not a chance.
Not a chance. Before we get to what they can do to show up against and show out against San Francisco, what you had a question for me? You were going to let me talk?
No, I wanted you to kind of give your answer for the identity of the team, at least just a bit.
Yeah.
Just give me a bit. And we talked a little bit off air, but
Yeah, I mean,
tell the people.
you don't have one. Like, you don't have
Yeah.
a passing game. Your passing game is non-existent. The two people you paid all the money to are not, for whatever reason, and there's many reasons that everyone would like to know and pinpoint what it is, but you don't have a passing game. You don't have a running game at all. It's running back by committee. I think everybody was worried about that going into the season, right?
And it's not fixed.
It's not fixed. I don't think you're gonna fix it. I think Rico Dowdle is a good running back. I don't think he's not going to be able to do anything with what's around him, right? I think he's a good supplemental guy, but could Derrick Henry come in here? I know everybody talked about that. They wanted him in the offseason. Would he have even made a difference on this team? Because your offensive line is the way they are. So I think they're probably frustrated, and they don't even know what the identity is. There's no, it's not a defensive team. You're giving up 40 points a game when you lose. You're not a home team. You're not an on the road team. I don't think you have one, and I don't know if they're going to figure it out. This may just be one of those years where it's like, let's just get through the year. right? Let's just get from game to game. Because I think what makes this year different and feels different from a fan's perspective is every other year there were things that were wrong and you had hope. I think this year, I don't know if there's any hope right now. I think it's like it is what it is. And, even when you say, well, when Micah comes back and when Tank comes back and like years
the problems
past,
aren't fixed.
They're not fixed, right?
Yeah.
In the past, you would think like that's going to make a difference. And I feel like the fans probably feel like there's a lot more going on. Like you said, there's foundational things. And what have caused those, I don't know. But even when the guys, like you said, when they go and they talk after the game, I think they're looking for answers. They're trying to figure out what the identity is.
Absolutely.
So, there's just a lot of questions, man. This early in the season, that's the thing.
Yeah.
6 games in, and you're like, what's next? And I think going out, you have to play a good game against San Francisco, or you're going to lose the team. You're going to lose the fan base. You may not win, but you can't do what you did against Detroit because, then these shows aren't going to be any fun. Like, we're going to be talking about, dating apps and upside down pineapples the whole show instead of football. So, what do you guys think? And anybody feel free to jump in on this one. What do they have to do? Well, let me ask you guys this. Do you guys feel like the season's anything can happen in the NFL, right? We've seen it every year there's a team that starts off terrible and they come on strong at the end of the year and they figure it out. Yes, you could do that. You have the tools to do that, right? You just have to figure out how things work. And, hopefully those guys are still plugging away and they feel that way. So anything can happen in the NFL. You can get hot. Look at the Giants at the end of the year. When they won the Super Bowl, they ripped off, 5-6 wins at the end of the season and won the Super Bowl. They were bad during the year. So nothing's beyond, being possible. But do you feel like the season is lost? Or do you think they can? You said your ceiling is getting to the playoffs now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think that's attainable, or are you kind of like that's pie in the sky type?
No, I think it's attainable. I think it's attainable to get to the playoffs. You still have really talented players on this team.
Mm-hmm.
You have a Dak Prescott, a CeeDee Lamb, a Michael Parsons when he comes back, which I assume will be in San Francisco. You have guys on both sides of the ball, well, all 3 phases, if you want to count in Brandon Aubrey, that can win you ball games and that can step up and be able to be that guy whenever they need one guy to step up. Eventually, the talent is going to show up. We haven't necessarily seen it so far. Even in their wins, it's been more of a cumulative effort. Whereas in years past, you could point at, hey, that was the Micah game. Hey, that was the CD game. The Detroit game last year was the CD game. You could look at a Dak game. We haven't seen any of those so far. Those games will come. I'm confident in that. I think there is still talent on this team. But I think from an overall perspective, whenever you look at the 23 to 53 on this roster, I don't think there's enough there to lead me to believe that this can be a team we look at in late January that's still playing.
So the depth to you is what's causing a lot of this is when you lose your key role players, there's not the depth and the quality of depth to back.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of young players that are getting these reps, and eventually that will pay off down the line. These young players getting this type of time and experience young in their career, it's going to help, but not this season. I think this season it's taking the learning curve and understanding that will reap the rewards in future seasons. But as of right now, you need that 1 to 22 back healthy.
Let me cook for a second. Does this feel in a way, in high school? You study hard. You're getting ready to graduate. Freshman year,
Who
sophomore
studied
year,
hard in
junior
high
year.
school?
I know. Sorry. Oh. Senior year.
She's the only one with a book in front of her. I believe it.
It's all about to come to an end senior year.
Yep.
And there's a little thing called senioritis.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a coaching staff that is on the final year of their contracts.
Difference. I wasn't getting paid my senior year of high school.
That's
Go
fair.
ahead.
That's fair.
Go ahead.
That's fair.
Millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. No, I totally get it.
With the threat of not having that money come back if I didn't do a good job that senior year. But
that's fair. But I think at least with the players around you, you know what I mean? Do you think the mentality, do you think that creeps in a little bit where it's like,
of course it does.
It's coming to an end here, guys.
I think
for the players and how they feel about McCarthy?
I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that explicitly, but I'm saying, is that even a factor?
I don't think it is. No. I really don't.
I don't think it is among the players who matter. I think obviously there are just gonna be some guys who like you mentioned the 23 through 53. There'll be a few among them who, and it wouldn't even have anything to do with McCarthy. That just might be the attitude that they have in general. But I feel like when it comes to players, they play for their pride, they play for their future contracts, they play for their incentives. There's a lot of guys on the team who don't seem to enjoy losing. So I just don't see them being like, oh, well, there's going to be a new system next season. So
and there's no guarantee that player will be in
control. I think for the exact reasons of what you just said, there is some of that. They're playing for their contracts. They're playing for their incentives. They're playing for that next contract. I know most of you guys aren't going to be here. So if I can freelance a little bit to get my numbers up and get good tape out there and do something, you're not going to be here to tell me what to do next year anyway. So I'm going to get my money. Like, I'm going to put out some good tape. I don't think there's a lot of that, but I think
you're on the same page with me a little bit. That's kind of where I'm getting at. I'm definitely
and I don't think anybody is out to get Coach McCarthy. Like, we're going to sabotage him and do that. But I do think there's a little bit of, okay, I'm going to get mine because this might not be around me next year, and I don't have to answer. I'm not going to have to answer this. There's going to be a new system in place, and so I'm going to do what I can do. But,
I feel a bit of apathy in that respect, personally.
Great question.
I don't think it's set in yet. I think if it does, we'll look up after Thanksgiving, and if this team is, at the bottom of the ocean, then that's when we'll start to see that happen.
How bad is? Let's don't even talk about that.
Well,
it looks like it does now without apathy. Imagine what it would look like with apathy.
Yeah.
And to your question, this is something that Nate Newton told me last year when I was first starting with the Cowboys, was that you don't really know who a team is until Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. So that has stuck with me since, because I kind of had a better idea of who the team was last Thanksgiving, and now I'm kind of waiting for that. I don't think the season is lost by any means. Just 3-3.
Speaking of,
and there's Mr. Newton right there, who I respect more than anyone, and he has different feelings for me.
I mean, we still have a whole month until Thanksgiving.
Shannon, we sorry, man. We're so sorry.
Y'all late. We're 47 minutes late.
The point.
Man, I'm sorry we late.
47 minutes late. Where y'all been?
Hey,
What's up,
man?
fellas?
What's going on?
Man?
What's going
what
on?
y'all doing on our show?
Let Jazz talk, man. Come on.
It's the sports talk equivalent of Braille people.
Feel us. I ain't trying to brag.
See, that's what we need. We need the hand motion.
But we are the number one view.
Oh, Josh just told me somebody cooked the numbers. We had 2 more shows than anybody else last
It was
month.
more like 3, but that's all right.
Yeah,
that's all right.
That's why we're number 1. We got more views.
And all the other shows have changed.
You would not hurt
rosters.
my feelings. We're still number 1.
You have the same old 4 guys this entire time, last 7 years. You know what I mean? They're familiar with you guys. That's all right.
Just so you know, Nate Newton and Jesse Holly just walked in the studio. They are on the Players Lounge next, right after us.
Yeah, y'all sleeping off. Y'all late.
Normally, no, we have a little grace period. We have a little grace period. So thanks for.
I'm
coming
sorry,
in.
Jazz, for the terrible rude interruption by these jokers.
Do what? Thanks for stopping by. Miss y'all. What was your point? Sorry.
I was just gonna say, for me, I agree with y'all that the season's not over. I think I've been trying not to look at this as a movie that sucks, and more like a series that left us at a mid-season cliffhanger.
Yes.
Like, they're going into the bye week, and no, it doesn't feel like they're saying the right things, but we have seen examples of a lot of these guys performing a lot better than we saw against the Lions. If they can do something to harness whatever got them to those points, then maybe there's a little bit of hope. There's a lot of stories that need to be told here. Like, there's a story of Dak Prescott as a leader who's trying to, navigate this situation with this seemingly unmotivated offense. There's a story of CeeDee Lamb getting paid and people expecting him to show up as a leader, and some people in the locker room saying he's the leader, but people not really seeing it. There's all these guys on defense, who knows what kind of perspective Micah Parsons and D-Law might come back with after, looking at the team more so from the outside looking in, and how that might impact their role on the team. You've got the whole situation with the running back room, and how are they going to get on the same page? I mean, the offensive line is a whole soap opera within itself. I just feel like there's a lot of stories to be told here, and depending on how each of those stories goes, that's what's going to determine how the season goes. So it's not like there's one thing that's going to be the thing. I feel like there's each person has an opportunity right now to do something different that can impact the rest of the season. And I feel like if you get most people going in the right direction, then the team will go in the right direction.
I like it.
And don't lose hope. There is hope because if you look at the standings right now, 6 weeks in, there are teams in the very bottom of their divisions that are going to turn it around and they're going to be at the top, and there's ones that are at the top that are going to be at the bottom. It happens every year in the NFL. It just feels really the no identity part. You don't have anything to cling on to, and it feels a little hopeless. So, but what's not hopeless is this show, because guess what? We will be back tomorrow doing the same show at the same time.
6 less Pro Bowls, but we'll be here.
Yeah, and 3 Super Bowl championships less, but we'll be here. So thank you. This was awesome. Nice hanging out with you, Jazz. You too, Nick. What was your name again?
It was Josh.
Oh, okay, Josh. Thanks for
Sharon.
joining
Appreciate
the show.
it.
You're welcome, man. Chris, thanks for keeping us on the air. Josh, you're not in the back anymore. Jazz, thanks for keeping Chris company in the back. And Jesse was back there today. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place on Hanging with the Boys.
We out!
There we
go!
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!